Right. Welcome, everyone. I am really thrilled that Valarie Bogan is going to talk to us today about SuperKnova and how SuperKnova can be of use and of interest to you and your families. And I think most of you may know Valarie, but I'm just going to give a brief introduction just in case. So Valarie is the Broadening Participation Program Manager for SuperKnova. SuperKnova is is NRAO's online learning platform. It's designed to broaden participation in STEM. Valarie's been doing quite a bit of work in putting courses and helping other team members in ODI get their courses on SuperKnova. And so she's going to tell us a little bit about that. But Valarie started her career in the life sciences and obtained a bachelor's degree in marine science and a master's in biology before becoming a teacher. She taught for about 10 years, then went back to school to get a certificate in K through 12 integrated STEM education, and then obtained a PhD in curriculum and instruction with an emphasis on science education. So as you'll see, Valarie has really led SuperKnova into a very good position, and we look forward to seeing the great work that she continues to do on this exciting platform. So welcome, Valarie.
Thank you, Lindell. And I would like to say that SuperKnova would not be possible without Lindell and Anya, so we thank them for that. And I'm going to share my screen if I can. All right, so this talk is all about not just SuperKnova, but how you can be involved in SuperKnova, how it can be useful to you as an employee, and it can also be useful to your families as well. So I hope that you and your family decide to get involved in what we have on the platform. So just to give you a brief overview, there's going to be a break in the middle for questions. So first I'll talk about the middle and high school lessons and the citizen science project, and we'll take questions at that point, and then there'll be a second half, so to speak, which will really address the university level courses that we have developing. So for the educator resources, the page that you are looking at will take you to all of the things that we have available. There are courses for lessons for middle school and high school, and there's even an informal education lesson that can be used. Within these, you can scaffold from middle school to high school or high school to middle school. Everything is pretty well to be transferred between the two levels. We don't really have anything available for elementary school. There are a couple of activities, particularly the informal education activity that could be done at the elementary school level, but unfortunately, that's really all we have available to that age group. In that menu, you drop down the menu, you'll see a lot of lesson titles. If you click on a lesson title, every page looks the same. And so to discuss what the lessons look like, it's best just to look at one of them. So every lesson was developed using the NGSS standards, so the best practices. And if teachers use these, that has materials listed so they can find them. There's a teacher side and a student side. And this is useful to people who are just parents and want to use this with their children to add to their educational experiences, maybe during a school break. You don't have to dig through the teacher guide and lesson plan to find things that your kids can do. They're listed right here in the student section, but there is for a teacher a very detailed lesson plan that they can use to lead the lesson in their classroom. Do notice that we have the Spanish translations for both the teacher materials and the student materials. If you look at the page, you'll actually find that right now, there are only a few of the lessons that have the Spanish translations. I have the rest of them. And soon, within the next month, they'll be available on the platform as well. So we have Spanish translations for all of these. As you probably noticed from the last slide, not all of these lessons are about radio astronomy. In fact, very few of them are about radio astronomy. The lessons were developed under two grants, the NRDZ and the Spectrum X grant. And both of those, the focus was on improving understanding of radio frequencies. So while radio astronomy is a part of that, there are a lot of other things that need to be part of the lessons as well. So most of the lessons really focus on different uses of the radio frequencies. This covers topics like anything from the health effects of radio frequencies to spark gap transmitters and crystal radios, and how radio frequencies have changed the world. So a lot of things included in that. We do have 4 lessons that are on radio astronomy, including the one you see in the picture on the right, which is a really fun activity that lets students model how radio telescopes collect data with an umbrella and play balls. We have basic physics lessons that teach things like waves and electromagnetic waves that they'll need to know to do the other activities. We've got some lessons on satellites and on spectrum management, weather predicting, wireless networks, remote sensing, and radio telemetry. So we really cover a variety of disciplines because radio telemetry is about tracking wildlife, so even the life sciences are included here. I currently have an opportunity available for teachers, both for this school year, and because I'm working on a fiscal calendar, I actually extend that to September of 2024, as well as next school year. So if you know any teachers, maybe your students, your children, their teachers, or if you happen to have family or friends that are teachers, please let them know about this opportunity. They have to use one of the Spectrum X lessons, first of all. There are only 9 NRDZ lessons, so most of them are Spectrum X lessons. The teachers will get all the materials they need to carry out that lesson in the classroom. At the end, they have to fill out a short survey about how the lesson went and improvements that could be made, and then they get a stipend. So it's a really great opportunity for them. So if you could just pass that information on, that would be fantastic. And I will be able to provide links for all of these things at the end. So if you're wondering how to get to these resources, you'll get that when I'm finished here. So the second thing I want to talk to you about now is the Citizen Science Project. So this project, its purpose is to improve the public's understanding of the radio frequencies and let them know that it's a limited resource and that it needs to be managed wisely in order to have everything that we'd like to have. There are 2 parts to this project. There's a part that uses an RTL SDR dongle. That's a device that you see a picture of on the top right of this screen. You plug it in to the USB port on your computer and it can detect radio frequencies in your area. When you partner that with some open source software, then you can do things like identify local broadcasters or track aircraft. The second part, it uses an app for an Android phone, and the app's called Wi-Fi Analyzer. And if you look on the Google Play Store, that's the logo for the particular app. This app allows people to investigate the wireless connections around them. The picture you see on the right was a scan I did when I was living in Charlottesville, and you can see all the Wi-Fi routers of all my neighbors. The channels that they are broadcasting on is on the x-axis, the strength of the signal is on the y-axis, and so it just really gives people a better understanding of how many Wi-Fi routers there are in their area and the different channels and signals that they have. So it just broadens their understanding of that widely used concept. The Citizen Science Project is for citizens, so all the people this call are welcome to be part of it. We would welcome you to collect data and upload your data to the webpage. Like I said, I'll be providing you the link shortly. You can also suggest new activities because this really is a project for the citizens. There are a lot of things you can do with those SDR dongles, more than what we already have in the project. And so if you have done something you really enjoyed, you think people would enjoy, there's a place for you to suggest that on the page. There also are other cell phone apps that can be used for different things. And again, you can suggest those too. Currently, I'm also looking for groups that would be interested in participating in the project with the RTL SDR dongle, have some of those to give away. So if you know a group, this can be a group of any age people. It doesn't have to be students, although that's perfectly acceptable if you have students of any age, elementary through college, retirees, a group of people who just like doing techie things together, that's okay too. And you just let me know about that and we will be happy to give you a dongle. And as long as you use it and collect data, that is all we ask. So now I'm going to pause and I'm going to take some questions. I'm actually Gonna stop sharing for a moment too, so I can drop some links in that are appropriate at this moment, but I'm happy to take any questions that you have on these topics. So here are the links for those things. So for the middle and high school lessons and for the citizen science.
Hey, Valerie, really good stuff so far. Really enjoying the talk. And it is true, I think, I know we've talked about this, that there are, as far as you know, there's no equivalent app for an iPhone.
There is not, and that has to do with how Apple makes the iPhone and the way that they won't let you get access to certain chips within it.
Okay. So if it was possible, it's not like, we could find someone to write an app. It's probably not possible to have an app for an iPhone.
That is what I've been told.
Okay.
I've been told there's some major security issues. So basically, you could apparently build a backdoor that would let you get access to what you need to get access to. However, that could cause real problems. So for right now, no, Apple can't, the iPhone can't be involved, but hopefully we can get that resolved within the next year or so.
Great. Thanks, Valerie.
All right, I'm going to go back to sharing and I'm going to go ahead and continue on to the other part. And if you have more questions about the citizen science or the middle and high school lessons, you are welcome to ask them at the end as well. So let's go back to the presentation. And all right, now we're going to talk about the digital badge courses. So first, I'm going to give you a little background about where these came from. These courses were first developed as a 3-credit undergraduate course that could be used by a professor in a university setting. This was part of the NRDC project. The course itself is called Spectrum Management and Science, and it has 6 modules within that entire course. We decided that we wanted to increase the access to this course. And so the way to do that is by making it into a digital badge course. So these are asynchronous, they're online. So people go through them individually at their own pace. There's no interaction between people whatsoever in these particular courses. These were created by content experts, and I'm going to actually tell you about those content experts in a few minutes as we start going through what courses are available. But before I do that, let me tell you what the course includes. So when you're going through these courses, they're all basically the same as far as the same activities. You'll hear recorded lectures, which were created by those content experts. There'll be reading assignments, and there's going to be a quiz for each topic. So each of the courses broken down into at least 4 and sometimes as many as 7 different topics. Each topic has the lecture and the reading assignments and the quiz. You have to get an 80% on the quiz to be able to move forward into the next topic. But you can take the quiz as many times as you need to take it in order to reach that 80%. Then at the end, you're going to get to a final exam, which has questions about all of the topics within the course. And you also have to get an 80% on the final exam in order to get your digital badge. But just like with the quizzes, you can go back and take that final exam more than once. So as I will explain, if you take one of these on the introduction video, you can always rewatch lectures and reread things and look at your notes. And that's important because these courses are going to require you to take notes. These are not things that you can just listen to the video and read something once and be like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna click my way through this quiz without any issues. You need to really put some effort into them. But at the end, you should have a pretty strong understanding of the content. So there are 4 digital badges that are currently available, digital badge courses that are currently available. And there are 2 which will be available within the next few months. And I'm going to tell you about all 6. And I'm also going to give you access to the page where you can find out about these and you can register for them. So the first available digital badge course is called Science Fundamentals. And this has a focus on science fundamentals as far as if you were working as a designer or an analyzer or spectrum manager. So really working with the radio frequency spectrum. And the picture that you see in the top right is the creator for this course. And it's Dr. Stephen Ellingson, and he is a professor of electrical and computer engineering at Virginia Tech. If you take this course, he's the voice you're going to hear in all the recorded videos, lectures that go with it. During the course, you're going to learn about the waves, propagation of waves, properties of signals in the time and frequency domain, and noise. Our second course is created by the exact same person. So Dr. Ellingson had created both of these. And again, this is an engineering fundamentals course that focuses on the spectrum. So it really gives you the things you need to know if you are going to be working in the radio frequency spectrum, either analyzing it or designing it or managing it. So topics included in this course include transmitters and receivers, antennas, and radio link analysis. The third of our digital badge courses was created by someone that many of you may be familiar with. This is Dr. Ed Murphy, who works as a professor at the University of Virginia. And again, this is a course about radio astronomy, but really focused on how radio astronomy uses and needs the spectrum. So the topics that he's included in this course is an overview of all the types of astronomy and how they use different parts of the spectrum. Then he goes to the radio sky and the history of radio astronomy, talks about radio telescopes, radio interferometers, then into the emissions of thermal black body emission and synchrotron emission, and he finally ends with spectral lines in radio astronomy. The last of the digital badges that are currently available is called the Legal and Regulatory Foundations of Spectrum Management. And this was created by Lisa Sockett, who you see on the right. Lisa is had a long career in communications law and has worked with the NTIA and FCC in her past. And this is a fantastic course that gives students an introduction to the legal and regulatory aspects of spectrum management. She's included the historical and current policies, the national and international agencies involved in spectrum management. She spends a lot of time talking you through the FCC rulemaking process, and then she focuses on the future of spectrum management. There are 2 digital badge courses that will be developed in the next couple of months. I have to fit the development of these in when I have time. So this takes a little bit of time. My hope is that they will be done by June. So the next one is Spectrum Economics and Market Tools, and this was created by Sarah O'Lamb, who you see on the right. One of her advisors in her PhD program was actually Tom Hazlett, who was the economist for the FCC for a while. So has a great background in the spectrum economics to share with you. So the topics included in the course are spectrum auctions, secondary markets, unlicensed bands, experimental licenses, the foundations of spectrum valuation, allocation methods, and economic concepts. And the last digital badge course that is coming soon is Spectrum Management Methods. And this course was created by a pair of individuals. We've got Roger Peterson and Dennis Roberson, and they both have long careers in dealing with electrical engineering and spectrum matters. The focus of this course is really on how to manage the radio frequency portions of the spectrum, and they include a historical view of spectrum management, different management techniques, regulatory and standards bodies, spectrum sharing, and cellular communications within this course. So now that I have given you an overview of what the 6 digital badge courses are, 4 of which are currently available, the question is, how can you become part of these courses? Well, first of all, as far as eligibility, NRAO staff are welcome to take these courses, but if you have children who may be of college age and who have the right background, so this does really require you to have some experience with physics or engineering, particularly for the science and engineering courses. Now, you don't need that STEM background for the economics or for the legal course. So that's something that someone without that background would be very comfortable taking. But for the other 4, you really do need a little bit of background. But if you have a college age student that at home that fits that bill, I'm more than happy for them to participate. And summer students, like the students pictured on the right. So your summer students, if you have them, please mention to them that these courses are available. I'm happy for them to participate in as many as they'd like. I do ask that you only take one course at a time, and that's just because we want to have people who are actively involved in the courses and not just sitting and taking up some of our valuable space. We have plenty of space right now on the platform, but we want to make sure we can accommodate everyone. So this link, which I will drop in the chat when I'm finished here, will take you to our course catalog. It'll give you a longer description of each of the courses. And at the bottom, there is a form that you fill out if you would like to register. I have to manually enroll you in the course because we're in the pilot stage of the digital badge courses. So I'm manually enrolling everyone until we get past the pilot into the beta stage. So whenever you enroll, you're not going to hear from me until the following Wednesday, because I've set some time aside on Wednesdays to enroll people into these courses. So on Wednesday, after you've filled out the form, I'll send you an email. I'll give you your login information if you need it, give you instructions about how to get started. So just don't panic if you don't hear from me. Wait till the next Wednesday. And then if you don't hear from me, please reach out in case something happened with your application. All right. Last topic for the day, and one I really could use your help with, because this one is in development. Everything else so far is really got to the point where it's just ready to be used. This is getting ready to be created. And so we are going to be creating a graduate level course for the second version of NRDZ, or the Sci-Nerds grant, as it's affectionately called. And so what we're trying to do is create a graduate level course that could help somebody that's got a bachelor's degree in physics or astronomy learn about spectrum management. And our intended audience, again, students, NRAO staff, and anyone with the appropriate background. This is not going to be a course that is first developed for the classroom setting. We're going to skip that stage and go right to an asynchronous digital badge course model. So this will be something used online individually by people. However, we may use the cohort model, which if you've ever done a Coursera course, is something that they do. And that's because there are elements of this projected course that may need some peer interaction. And so that cohort model, where there's a designated start and end date, may be necessary. So because some of the topics I just described to you in the undergraduate course are going to be used in the graduate course, all content developed for the graduate course will be complementary to what is already existing. So we're not going to be repeating things in the graduate course that were already included in the undergrad course. We'll be expanding upon those. So we have, first, let me tell you about how I've gotten to this point, and then I'll tell you about the two options that are currently under consideration. So first, I did a needs analysis where I talked to 15 members of the Spectrum community. These are government employees, they're private company employees, or university employees, people who have a lot of experience, and some NRAO employees as well, a lot of experience with Spectrum and know what people who are making that transition need to know to make that transition. I also looked at the existing offerings that included government courses, which are only available to employees of that particular government agency, private companies that offer spectrum management courses, and one college and one university that offer courses in spectrum management. And I used all of that to determine what our course would look like. So I went back and forth on how much information to give you at this moment. And I decided I'm just going to give you overviews and then direct you to where you can find the more detailed description of each of these options, because I don't want to give you too much information at this time, because it just isn't going to be helpful to you. So we can only afford to make one course. So we have to decide between two options. The first option, and please don't be distracted by the title. This is a working title, definitely will change before we get to production. But this first one for right now is being called Spectrum Management of RF Interference. And this course would be a completely integrated course. So the engineering topics, the policy topics, the economics topics would be integrated to the point that you couldn't distinguish one from the other. And it would all be focusing on a course about RF interference. So anything that was included about, say, the federal agencies, FCC, NTIA, the parts that would be included would only be those parts that would have dealings with RF interference in some way. So the course would be very structured, and because it's focused on that very detailed topic, it would probably be a shorter course. Maybe something, if we were to try to look at it as a college credit level, 1 credit, maybe 1.5, depending on the content creator we hire. So that's the first option. The second option, again, please disregard the title. I'm certain this will change later, but currently it's called Spectrum Management for Scientists. And this would be a more traditional course that right now I'm thinking of having 3 modules. It would have a module, again, titles will change, but one would be what is spectrum management? So focusing on the basics of spectrum management, that would be where the FCC, the NTIA, the international agencies all would be talked about. An engineering primer, because again, this course is intended for people with a science background. So giving them the engineering knowledge that they would need to understand what goes on in spectrum management. And then really the third module would be more of an interdisciplinary module, combining the spectrum management and the science and figuring out how spectrum management impacts scientists as they're working with radio frequencies. So as I said, I'm just giving you a very brief overview of them. I have a detailed list of topics that would be included in each one and the learning objectives for each of those. I didn't want to bombard you with too much information at this moment because you need to really read it and take it in before you try to think about which one is best. So what I have for you is a survey that I would really appreciate if you could fill out. And I'd also appreciate it if you could tell all of your colleagues about it and ask them to fill it out as well. And I will be giving you this link momentarily. It shouldn't take you more than 20 minutes. You're going to get a chance to look at both of the projected courses, suggest things that should be added to them, and then choose which one you think should be created, the first one or the second one, because again, your opinion really does matter. The intention is for some of you to take this course, hopefully, and to be able to learn about spectrum management, and not necessarily because you want to change careers, but just because spectrum management is part of radio astronomy and you really, it benefits you to learn about it. So that is all I have for you today, because again, I really need your input on the last one, and then we can talk more about it as it gets closer to the development stage. But I'm happy to take questions, and as I stop sharing, I'm going to go ahead and drop those additional links in the chat for you.
So if you could include the process for applying for the RTL SDR hardware, that link.
Oh, that actually doesn't have a link. That's really easy. You just email me and you tell me you want it.
Okay.
So there's no application process for the citizen science. So I will just drop my email address into the chat as well. And for the citizen science, just send me an email and I can get that to you.
I'm really keen to hear from all of you as well about ideas that you might have for using SuperKnova. I will say right from the beginning that Valarie is in charge of SuperKnova, and that's already a full-time job. But we do eventually want SuperKnova to be something that can be used by any department or group in the observatory to share information, to provide training. At the moment, there is very limited funding and bandwidth in terms of human capacity to do that work. But Valarie would be your primary contact on this. If you have ideas about using SuperKnova in ways that can be shared with the community, please let her know. But again, realizing that what she's probably going to do is say, this is great. And how can we pull this off? Which may mean maybe hiring people, finding time for people to work on this. So I want us to be hopeful and enthusiastic about using SuperKnova and growing SuperKnova, and also realizing that Valarie is one person and already has quite a bit going on, as you can see. She's done an amazing job with SuperKnova. And so, Valarie, I'm just going to turn this back over to you. But if you don't have anything else, I do have a question.
I'm finished, so I'm happy to take any questions. So Lindell, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm just going to put you on a spot a little bit here, because I know that you had a prepared set of conversations about some of the things that you've been doing on SuperKnova. Do you mind talking a little bit about some of the other things that you've been doing, supporting, for example, ham radio?
Sure. So the ham radio, which hopefully most of you have heard about from last week or other times with Jesse Alexander. So there is a course, well, there have been 2 courses. There's a course currently taking place with his students. And so he's using SuperKnova. SuperKnova actually has 2 pieces to it. So there's a WordPress piece, that's where the middle and high school lessons in citizen science lives. Then there's the learning management system. That's where the university courses and the ham radio course lives. So I've been working with Jesse to help him create that course and maybe help him to be able to navigate using the learning management systems to help his students learn all about ham radio. And soon, this summer, we'll actually be we will be releasing it so that anybody can use that course. And we're still figuring out how we want that to work, how we want to use SuperKnova to give that information to the world, whether we want to do that so in a way that would just give them all the information and keep them off of our platform entirely, or if we want to allow them to enroll in our platform and go through the course on SuperKnova itself. So just been working with that. And I know that we've had some other like radio courses that have been developed that we are still in development or being put onto SuperKnova so that we can reach some of our radio institutions. And so just a lot of working with developing courses that can be used by different groups of people to gain knowledge about subjects that are STEM related. So most of them are not radio astronomy, to be honest, but they're all STEM related. And so all good precursors to someone interested in radio astronomy.
Well, thank you very much, Valarie. And thank you everyone for your interest and support. And we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks. I should thank Chris as well. Chris Dupree is a big part of all of this work that we're doing. So thank you, Chris.